What's up everyone, Zach Nusser here, and welcome to episode 1 of my hypertrophy training guide. In this episode, we'll be covering the biceps. I'll be going over the anatomy of the biceps, the best exercise choices and exercise variation, training intensity, volume, and frequency, special training techniques, as well as some other bicep training tips. So to start things off, we're going to cover the biceps anatomy. The biceps brachii is a single muscle that has two origin points, or heads, the long head and the short head. An additional muscle we'll be covering is going to be the brachialis. So although the brachialis is separate from the biceps, it's best trained alongside with the biceps, and it fits best into a bicep training routine. The primary function of the bicep brachii is to move the forearm towards the shoulder, also known as elbow flexion. A secondary, so less important function of the muscle is supination of the forearm, and this means turning the hand from a palms down position to a palms up position. Exercise variation. To target each part of the biceps and the brachialis directly, you've got to train with a variety of exercises. It's important to note that most back exercises like pull-ups, pull-downs, and rows all heavily involve the biceps. This video is going to specifically cover bicep isolation exercises, not compound back exercises. So in order to target the short head of the bicep, it's best to train the biceps with the arms in front of the body line, such as with preacher curls or by bringing the arms upward during a standard bicep curl. In order to target the long head, we want the arms to be behind the body, such as with incline dumbbell curls or drag curls. And finally, to target the brachialis, the hands should be in a neutral position, like with hammer curls. And to target the brachialis more and the bicep brachii less, a cross-body variation of the hammer curl should be used. So my current routine includes incline dumbbell curls, cable curls, and cross-body hammer curls. Intensity. Intensity refers to the load used during a set. This will directly determine our rep range. The typical 8 to 12 rep range should be focused on for biceps, with heavier sets of 8 reps used for exercises like barbell curls and easy or preacher curls. I wouldn't recommend aiming for below 8 reps too often for single joint exercises, since the load needed to make gains could be potentially harmful for that joint, in this case the elbows. Exercises like dumbbell curls and cable curls can be taken from 10 reps all the way up to 30 reps and still reap similar gains in size, though metabolite buildup may become a limiting factor when approaching 30 reps. Because of this, I would recommend keeping most sets between 10 and 20 reps. Reps in reserve and going to failure. Since the biceps are such a small muscle group, their recovery tends to happen fairly quickly, and because of this, going to failure causes far less systemic fatigue and virtually none when compared to exercises like the squat, deadlift, and bench press. This means we can safely go to failure with little risk of injury or overtraining. Still, we don't want to train to failure too much, as it can negatively impact our overall training volume, potentially limiting our overall muscle gains. For these reasons, I recommend going to failure on the very last set of each bicep exercise, or maybe even just the last set of the last exercise. If performing more than one bicep exercise in a training session, and assuming we're training biceps after training back or on a separate day altogether, I would recommend resting at least 3 or 4 minutes after the failure set before starting the next exercise to allow more recovery, so the next exercise volume isn't significantly hindered. Volume. To determine training volume per muscle group, I like to refer to Dr. Mike Israetel's hypertrophy guide, as well as my own experience training myself and my clients. 8 direct working sets aside from back training seems to be a good starting point for biceps. I would recommend starting with 3 sets of 3 different exercises per week, putting us at 9 sets for a starting point while allowing for enough exercise variation to target each part of the biceps individually. Some people can handle upwards of 20 sets or more per week before needing to recover. Since I program a high training volume for the back and recommend that you do as well, this volume may be too much for the bicep tendons. Because of this, I think 5 to 6 sets per exercise is the most you'll need, and with 3 different exercises, this puts us at about 15 to 18 working sets per week. Now you can overreach to 7 to 8 sets per exercise, putting us at 21 to 24 working sets for a single week before your deload for potential supercompensation hypertrophic benefit. But I would use this method sparingly, no more than once per mesocycle or 2. Training frequency. As we talked about before, the biceps tend to recover fairly quickly and therefore demand a training stimulus more frequently. the biceps should be trained at least twice per week. You can train them more frequently depending on the volume and intensity per session. So for example, if you only do 3 to 4 sets per day with a relatively low intensity level, you can train them up to 5 or 6 times per week. That being said, I personally feel that higher per session volume and intensity provides a greater benefit than a high weekly training frequency. So 2 to 3 weekly bicep sessions with somewhere between 5 and 10 working sets per session seems to be the sweet spot, though your recovery rate and current caloric intake will affect this. Special training methods. The biceps tend to benefit from special training methods more than most other muscle groups. Drop sets, for example, can provide a great training stimulus in a short period of time, making them a great time saver in a high volume program. Blood flow restriction or occlusion training has been shown in studies to provide a strong hypertrophic stimulus with a light load, meaning we can use this to bolster our training volume without much additional joint stress. Other pump and metabolite training methods like low load, high rep sets with 25 or more reps per set have been shown to provide similar size gains as high load, low rep sets, again causing less joint stress, making them a great low fatigue option to increase training volume. In a previous video, I talked about how muscle damage isn't really necessary for muscle growth and may even be harmful in excess. However, since the biceps recover quickly, this isn't much of a concern, so slow eccentrics, which cause more muscle damage, can be used to increase intensity while decreasing the training load. Resistance curve. Bicep curls are hardest at the bottom of the motion and easiest at the top. Resistance bands can be used to work with this strength curve, since the band will cause the intensity to increase at the easiest part and decrease at the hardest part. Using cables can also be beneficial by creating consistent tension throughout the entire movement. One thing to note, full range of motion is extremely important for the biceps, so make sure you really squeeze the biceps at the top and straighten the arms all the way out at the bottom. Finally, it is impossible to lengthen the biceps or fill the so-called gap between your biceps and the inside of your elbow. Muscle attachments are genetic and therefore permanent. That said, adding mass to the biceps will artificially fill this gap. Some people have shorter biceps that create a higher peak when fully contracted, and other people have longer biceps with a fuller look and lower peak. Regardless of your genetics, increasing your bicep size will only improve your physique, so it's not worth obsessing over something that you cannot change. Just focus on improving what you've already got. Alright everyone, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you like and share the video. Subscribe to my channel to keep up to date on everything fitness. Leave any questions and comments you have in the comment section down below. Follow me on social media, and I'll see you guys next time.